Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. Today, I have a very special guest here with me, Mr. Dudley Brown from the National Association for Gun Rights, and he has agreed to come down and cut some content with us. Thanks for hanging out today.
Thanks for inviting me, man. Cool to be down here in Georgia and the South. I like the South. I mean, South's cool.
Yeah?
It's different. I mean, I live in Colorado, but this is another step.
I want to visit Colorado.
Yeah, come on up.
I've heard a lot of good stuff about it.
Yeah.
In many ways.
Well, and there's some bad stuff.
Okay.
You know, it's California.
I'm game.
California in the toward the middle.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty state, and it's heading in the wrong direction politically. But I live in a pretty area in northern Colorado, and but it's good to be down south, and a lot of my family's from down here.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time as a kid in the South, so.
Well, we have some very special stuff to talk about. Right now, we're on the heels of constitutional carry getting passed in Alabama and Ohio. And Dudley, when it comes to his knowledge of this type of stuff, he's very, very knowledgeable. In case you guys don't know, he has been a 2A activist for well over 30 years in this genre of activism. So he has a lot of insight on a lot of these things that are happening. And, we've really seen a awesome, flow of gun rights actually kind of going more towards, gun owners in a really positive way. Now we have 23 or 24 states with constitutional carry.
Right.
It is changing. Like when you look at how many states had constitutional carry 2 decades ago versus now, we are gaining some ground in that regard. But we really want to kind of discuss constitutional carry and give a big pat on the back to Alabama and Ohio, obviously. I wish we could get Florida and Georgia off their butts to get some things done.
Yeah, Alabama signed it last week. The governor signed it last week, and that would make 22. And just last night, while we were at dinner, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, who's not known as a raving conservative, but he signed it, and so there's 23. And there are 3 other states right now that are still teed up and in play right now. As you mentioned, Florida, it has adjourned now, so that bill is dead for this year. We did not actually anticipate it passing this year. We were excited because we got the governor, Ron DeSantis, who I happen to like a lot. I remember he was very good for us in Congress when he was a member of the U.S. House. We have him on record twice now saying he was in favor of constitutional carry, put it on my desk, I'll sign it. Well, the legislature there kind of didn't want to put it on his desk. And so there's some rhinos standing in the way, and we'll get to deal with that. But the states that really are in play right now, number one, Indiana, it's on the governor's desk. We're putting pressure on Governor Holcomb to sign it. We think the governor will sign it, but
is that particular governor, is he pro-gun or kind of indifferent?
Decent record, but never really had to do anything on guns. That's true of many very red states, is they never actually have to do anything on guns.
So do you think that's what a lot of this comes down to, right? So like in Florida, for instance, where you've got these Republicans in Florida in the state legislature that are, kind of going through the motions. They're kind of saying, yeah, I'm conservative. But then when they're actually pressured to do something that one would traditionally say that our side, I hate to choose sides. It's not like that for me.
Right.
But when someone says, hey, these people, want this to happen, do you think that they're worried that if they do something pro-gun, that it will negatively affect them, even though they run as Republicans? Like, do you think that they feel that their constituency and their voter base is not as pro-gun as they might think they are, and that if they pass it, that it's actually going to cause them negative situations to occur?
When a politician does anything on a controversial issue, it makes somebody mad, right or left. It makes somebody angry. So what do? What's the safest bet for a politician?
Do nothing.
Do nothing. And so they try and avoid it. Now, you add in a red state, especially with supermajorities, and
which Florida is,
which I don't know quite. Supermajorities pretty close.
They're,
Texas is a great example. There are lots of Tennessee. A lot of those politicians, they know they already have the gun vote. They've already been established as pro-gun by the NRA. They have A ratings. NRA passes out A ratings like after dinner mints. And so they've got these ratings. And so why have to vote on something really controversial, especially when your chiefs of police and state police come out and scream bloody murder that there's going to be shootings in the streets, which of course we know there aren't.
And they're all seeking re-election too, of course.
Yes.
So, it is an election year, and that does complicate things. Like when there is a political motivation towards or against a certain type of subject, no matter how much you may personally agree. Like there might be a politician that goes, well, yeah, I'd love to see constitutional carry passed. Like Ron DeSantis, he would totally sign it. But the political stock that he has in being pro-gun is much more visible and much more important to him being reelected than someone further down the line. Would that maybe be the case?
Yeah, and Ron DeSantis.
Because he seems like a pretty genuine guy. Like everything I've heard from him, and I've heard his speeches and heard him talk. I've heard him give press conferences and talk to reporters. He's very much like, yeah, ask me a question. Like he's not afraid to answer hard questions. He's not afraid to be honest. I mean, he seems pretty genuine to me. Now, I've never met him, but he does seem like a pretty genuine guy.
Yeah, I've spent a decent amount of time with him when he was in the House, and but I would say he's running for president.
He was in the Navy.
He's Navy, yeah,
officer,
Navy officer.
What rank? Do you know?
I don't. I think he was.
He carries me like he carries himself like
a Navy officer,
like a JAG.
So, but he he's running for president, which is an interesting dynamic, and especially given the former president's attitudes and temper tantrums is what I would call it. And so, but what we were really fighting in Florida is Marion Hammer, former NRA president, and their lobbyist and United Sportsmen's of Florida, Herb Lobby, which he has a ludicrously humongous contract. And near as I can tell, she doesn't do anything except give cover to politicians who vote wrong. That's literally what she does.
Try to rationalize their decision. Oh, well, it was because of this. It was because the chief of police complained, or it's because this police union got together and said, we don't want constitutional carry because we're worried that people have guns are going to hurt our officers and stuff like that.
Yeah, she can't be seen publicly as opposing constitutional carry in Florida. Yeah, she's trying to kill constitutional carry in Florida. And
that's a fact.
That's a fact. And you can make judgments what you will. All you got to do is look her up with her cat photos, and you can come up with some conclusions.
She's a cat person?
You just got to look it up.
What kind of guns does she own? Does she have guns? Does she shoot?
I'm sure she does, yeah.
Like I'm sure she does. But are we talking a double barrel shotgun?
I don't have a clue.
Over and under? Does she own an AR-15?
Eric, I don't hang out with Marion Hammer.
I'm giving you a hard time.
Of course you are.
Right.
Of course you are. And she's a odd duck, but the Good Old Boy Network in Florida, which is the same kind of fight we have in states all around the country. And it used to be that I worked every day in the state legislature in Colorado, and I have staff now for NHR who work all around the country. Mm-hmm. And work in these battleground states, big ones like we passed last year. We had 5 victories on constitutional carry last year.
Congratulations!
Of which Texas was the biggest by far, the biggest victory. And
you don't mess with the Texan and their gun rights,
right? Well, guess what? Texas has pretty bad gun laws, really. And for a red state, pretty weak gun laws, not good for our side. And we spent over 8 years, I think we spent almost $2 million on that fight to pass constitutional carry. We had to threaten the sitting Speaker of the House with a lawsuit. We actually caused 2 speakers of the House to resign, which is a very powerful position in Texas. There were a lot of fights there, and there was a team effort. Young Americans for Liberty helped. There were certainly some local groups. Lone Star Gun Rights, and then we had our local gun group, Texas Gun Rights, and NHR, and our staff, and lots of hard work over the years, and basically just forced politicians into a corner. And that's kind
Sometimes
of
you got to put the gloves on and get in there.
you always have to do it. If you're going to pass a controversial issue like constitutional carry, it's not like the lefties and Moms Demand Action are going to like just lay down and say, oh, yep, sorry, you're right. You showed us the statistics. Yes, we endorse constitutional carry. I mean, these little lefty commies, they're going to do anything they can to stop it. And so it takes a lot of muscle, and especially even in Republican legislatures where their attitude is, I already got the gun vote. I don't really need to do anything for it. Georgia is a great example of that. Right now, it's the Republican Speaker of the House who is stopping constitutional carry, won't give it a hearing in the House. The Senate, we think we have the votes in the Senate, and should the House here pass it,
I'm going to put some contact information in the description box below, and I want you to give him a call and ask him why this thing isn't moving. All right. Yeah. So if Georgia, if you're listening, we need to apply the heat. All right. We need to turn the heat up. We're going from just keeping it warm to now we're going to put the brakes on it and get some thermonuclear fire going under these people's feet.
Yeah.
You know, states. It's so strange when you think about the United States and the way that we all kind of almost have our own little geopolitical, kind of wagon corrals in each state. And diversity is one of the things that makes this country pretty interesting because we're such a melting pot of different cultures and everything like that. But diversity is not what defines this country. It's how we deal with diversity and how we manage diversity in a way that we can all get along is what makes it, make or break type of situation. And when you look at a state like Florida, that is so demographically diversified. I mean, you look at like Miami has a certain kind of demographic, a certain vibe that's going on in that area. You got the people up in Northwest Florida that are, a lot of snowbirds and retirees, many of which probably came from states that may not necessarily care too much about gun rights, or maybe they individually as people don't really care too much about gun rights. Right. So there are a lot of situations where whether it's a snowbird retiring and moving to Florida, or maybe it's a transplant moving out of California to Texas or to Georgia or wherever. Like for a long time, Georgia was the East Coast Hollywood, and we had a lot of industry, especially in the film industry, coming into Georgia. And as a result, obviously people coming from the West Coast, people coming from all over and relocating to Georgia, and they bring their politics with them. So there's like this geopolitical like baggage that people bring with them. And even though they say, oh, well, I'm leaving this state to escape this terrible crap that's going on, they still somehow manage to vote the same way that got them in the situation that they escaped from. But the place they escaped from stays ruined. And it's like a cancer that just spreads. And every state that winds up getting a transplant of a lot of those people, they tend to they never want to change like what made their state a problem to begin with.
A hellhole. New York, New Jersey, California, and those are, I think, three of the big culprits where people flee those you call them states, but really you're fleeing these big cities. Yeah. And then they move down into Florida. Out my way, they move into Colorado, and then they bring all their bad politics with them. And they wonder, wow, why are the taxes going up? And why is there so much regulation? But now we're definitely afield of the issue. So, but constitutional carry is certainly on the move. And we have 3 states right now that could pop at any moment. By the time this video is published, they might have already signed it in Indiana.
Let's hope.
And then there's Nebraska. And Nebraska is an interesting state because it's a unicameral legislature. There is the Senate, but then they layer it below it in committees and subcommittees and to slow legislation down. And in Nebraska, it's one of those, everybody there is in the sportsman's caucus. Right. Great. That and a quarter will buy you what? It doesn't buy you a cup of coffee anymore, but that's the old saying. And Nebraska, the city of Omaha has these really bad handgun registration act. And so some of the Republican legislators decided that they would appease law enforcement by codifying in the constitutional carry bill portions of that registration. And somehow that's going to get votes. And of course, we don't see that it gives them any votes. And frankly, we think that's a step backward.
And it's constitutional carry, but
we're
with a clause.
we're gonna put a big old turd right in the center, and everybody's got to take a bite, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the kind of stuff the politicians pull, and so far, anyway, we've been able to keep that amendment off of the bill, and hopefully we'll be able to keep it off and pass the bill. But the clock's ticking, and we'll see if it'll happen. We're definitely putting pressure and not taking anything for granted there.
One interesting paradigm that I would just like to kind of maybe end this discussion on, I know we've got a lot of things we're going to talk about today. I would just like to kind of mention that the fragile situation that is something like an election year, and like we're in midterms this year, and there's a lot of political pressure on all of these people to get reelected. And at the end of the day, I mean, we can say what we want about this person's voting record or the way this person is or whatever, but at the end of the day, really, it's just all about getting reelected. So that paints a very kind of scary picture that the Republicans in Florida, for instance, go, we're just going to throw this on the floor, and they're that cocky to think that people are still going to support them, and that very well may be the case. They may all actually just get voted right back in, and it may not be of a dire consequence. But that, when you think of something as important to a wider variety of people as the Second Amendment than what it has been over the last few years, we've got a lot of newcomers to the Second Amendment world, and we'd like to think that a lot of them are going to vote more towards the freedoms of the Second Amendment. And so to think that here is this very important political token that exists, which is 2A legislation that they can say, hey, if we pass this, all right, now our constituents know that we mean business and they're going to vote us back in. So the stock that they put in the gun vote, it's just interesting to see that paradigm play out across the whole country, and which ones are much more aggressive, like Ohio. Yeah, let's get this done, right? Okay, Indiana, it's on the governor's desk. So it's interesting to see how each state sort of takes that little 2A football and treats it. And that's also scary, right? Because like these people you're supposed to be voting in to protect your rights, and then they're not. And they have not only the opportunity and the legislation present to pass it and make it right by the people, their constituents, but also not only that, but it's compounded by the political pressure of getting reelected. So if it doesn't happen under the political pressure of them getting reelected, we have to assume that it's probably a high chance it'll never happen.
Unless you put and threaten politicians' reelection, you might as well not lobby.
Wow.
And I mean, the concept of Gucci loafered lobbyists and $3,000 suits going to a state capitol and somehow getting politicians to vote on a controversial issue your way, that's pretty naive. That's not the way it works on especially things like constitutional carry. You must go in and say, look, if you vote this way, we're going to tell your constituents. And I don't think they'll like that. In Georgia, that's the perfect example. Is there are very few parts of Georgia in which you can be, quotes, anti-gun. Obviously, some of the big cities,
right?
Certainly in Atlanta.
But cities are generally, you know that in any state that a large city is generally going to be kind of comprised of people that are not exactly pro-gun.
Just demographically.
Yes.
And so here in Georgia, the way to do it is you just tell them, we will tell all your constituents, all your voters, how you voted on this issue. And if you didn't vote on it, which is also telling, that's leadership. Because the leadership, the Speaker of the House or the President of the Senate or majority leaders, those are the people who schedule the votes or push it into a committee and make it come out. And depending on the rules of the state, when leadership doesn't want a bill to come out, and they're in control, trust me, it doesn't come out. And so then you got to go after them. And you want to really make yourself unpopular in a state capitol, go and recruit a candidate against a member of leadership in a primary. We had to do it in Texas with a lot of politicians. And boy, you aren't going to a single cocktail party there, but that's all right. We're not there to go to their cocktail parties. We're there to get something done for gun rights. And that's what we work on.
Agreed. One thing that I'll kind of add there too is like, okay, so say that you're going after the senior leadership in like various states, all of the other reps are going to be like, hey, what? I've got my constituents hammering down my phone telling me they're not going to vote for me if we don't pass this bill. Like, what are you doing? We're sitting on your hands and you're causing us to potentially not get reelected. So they listen to that.
So
if they've got
they'll turn
30
on
people, if they got 30 people come to them and say, hey, look at this list of phone calls. Like, what the heck?
Remember, a Speaker of the House, let's keep using Georgia for an example, they have a constituency, and that constituency is the state representatives who elected them Speaker. And so, yeah, of course, they need to get reelected in their own district, but they also need to be reelected as Speaker by the state reps. And if all of a sudden there's a revolt of people who say, I can't support you because my constituents are furious that you won't let the constitutional carry bill come to the floor, they'll see the light at some point, or you just have to get rid of them. Indiana was one of those ways. I mean, we had to crack a lot of eggs to do that in Indiana. And I keep using the Texas as an example. Texas was a knockdown drag out with some very powerful men. And the only way to fix that is to go straight to their district. They can talk all they want in a state capital and cut deals and go out to dinner with their mistresses. But when they go, sorry, did I let that slip? But when they go home into their district, that's when they don't want anybody to talk about what they actually do at the state capitol in their district. In their district, they just want to sound like a good Republican. And when organizations like the National Association for Gun Rights comes out and says, yeah, they're not pro-gun, and drop their district.
Right, but they got an A+ NRA rating.
Yeah, we
that just means they're willing to play ball.
Yeah, we urinate on those ratings, just to be honest. We don't think often those actually mean how bad you are.
Fair.
Sometimes the A+ are the worst.
Yeah.
It means
so that's the yes man. That's the person who's willing to play ball politically.
That's right.
I mean, I know that like politics are kind of a weird football to throw around. And, on this channel, we have not exactly been shy about our willingness to discuss the holistic 2A and the things that matter to us at that level. So it's real interesting to have a guy like Dudley here because he has so much knowledge of the inner workings of some of these organizations and some of the things that go on. And we are going to discuss some of those things in some future videos, but I hope you enjoyed this talk about constitutional carry. And look, a big congratulations to Alabama and Ohio for getting this passed. Hey, Indiana, you're right there. Look, Tim, you need to contact the governor and light a fire.
Come on,
Tim. All right, so Tim will work on that, and I'll work on Georgia, and we'll get there. And look, Florida is a temporarily lost cause for the present time.
Yep.
But time will only tell if that's going to wind up hurting them in some terrible way in the midterm. So, in fact, I would dare say it needs to hurt them. They need to feel the pain. So that's the next step. That bill didn't pass. Now, all the folks down in Florida, whether you're in a Florida advocacy group or a nationwide advocacy group and you're wanting to spread the word about stuff going on with constitutional carry in Florida, the way to do that is to now apply the pain and say, all right, well, we're voting you out. Hello, you.
That's right.
Hey, see this line? You voted here. You're out of here.
Or you didn't vote, or you bottled it up. And let me finish with this. As of now, almost 1/3 of America lives under a constitutional carry state. Almost 1/3 of the population, 110 million is what we believe it is, somewhere in there. And those numbers are preliminary because literally it just happened last night that we got Ohio. And so that's 1/3 of the country now is not required to get a permit to carry the tools for self-defense concealed.
Not only is the permit an infringement on your rights because it converts a right into a privilege, it's also the fee associated with it. There's a barrier, a financial barrier that has to be crossed in order for you to exercise your rights. So constitutional carry removes that barrier. So that's also saving. I mean, look at gas prices right now. Everybody could use an extra $20, $30 here and there. So not having to pay for that permit, that's also putting some money back in the pockets of Americans. So I can definitely agree with that. So, yeah, Dudley, thanks for hanging out on this particular video, man. I appreciate you coming down. We've had a great time these last couple of days. We've been shooting some machine guns and hanging out. Dudley's good people. Make sure you go over to NAGR and become a member. Donate what you can, join, support their efforts. I actually don't think I'm an NAGR member yet. I'm going to fix that before you leave.
Well,
become a member.
And we want people to, we did a full video on constitutional carry just a few weeks ago. So there's another video there on our channel. If you look up NAGR on YouTube, you can see our channel and and see that video where we go into it in depth. So
Maybe we'll find some stuff to raffle off. I think we've got a few things laying around. Maybe we can find some fun things to raffle.
can I get in a
Mason.
raffle?
You don't get to buy raffle tickets.
Yeah, I want to raffle. I want to be a winner of a few things in this room.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed today's video. Big thanks to Dudley and his crew for coming down and having a great time with us. We got many more videos on the way. Go over to Ballistic Ink and pick yourself up a snazzy new t-shirt. That's one way you can support our efforts. Go check out NAJR, really great people. And many more videos on the way. I really appreciate y'all watching. Have yourselves a great week. We'll see you soon.